My name is Alicia Sapatic. I'm with the Ministry of Agriculture, and in this video, we'll be talking about bison transportation. We'll hear from a few different producers on their experiences and the regulations when transporting bison. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency regulates the transport of animals entering, leaving, or being transported within Canada as part of the Health of Animals regulations. The link to these regulations can be found in the comments section or at the end of this video.
My name's Lonnie Bulmer with Bison River Ranch, and here today to talk about loading and unloading bison in a large cattle trailer. This is a large 53-foot cattle pot. They've been commonly used for hauling bison around. When I'm loading the trailer, one of this size, I tend to load my nose and top decks first and then proceed to the bottom decks. Loading smaller trailers, depending on the animals that I may be moving, I'll try to size them to the same size to load into a compartment of a smaller trailer, and don't overpack things. Try to keep them enough space so that they may not be able to turn around, but they got enough space side to side that they can breathe and lay down if they want to.
Sectioning the load accordingly helps ensure animal safety and compatibility during transport. If any animal is incompatible due to size, sex, or behavior, they may require isolation.
When I start loading the top deck of the trailer, I usually hang out here in the doghouse. If I'm not putting animals in the doghouse, well, I'll still load it later. But as the animals come up the ramp, I'll have this door here closed in front of me with my cross gate unlatched and ready to roll, so that when the animals go down into the nose, then I'm able to walk in quietly behind them, close up the nose, and everybody's down in the nose quietly. This way I'm at a sight, everybody is calm and at ease as they shuffle through the trailer. In this aluminum trailer, they will make a lot of noise and kind of scare themselves because of their hooves on the floor. Most to all times of loading, I use shavings on the floor to minimize noise, as well as the texture on the floor wasn't as slippery for the animals. A large trailer like this, there's a bit of finesse to it. There was a few techniques that I had learned with loading for bison. I found that the least amount that they see you within the trailer, the better it was and the better that they loaded.
As a transporter, it is also a requirement to monitor live animal shipments, the method and frequency of which must be appropriate for assessing the welfare of the animals being transported.
What I found while I was transporting bison is that not too many stops. If you do stop somewhere quiet so that you can check in your load and make sure that there's no downed animals. Everybody seems to be happy and healthy. If you have an overnight stay, I always tried to park way out of the way of any other transportation vehicles of any type. Just kind of park off by my own so that the animals would relax and do their thing in the evenings.
So we transport in various ways, anywhere from like say a 30-foot goose deck to a full-on cattle liner, like a Wilson cattle pot.
For bison, the maximum period they can be without feed, water, and rest is 36 hours. As soon as one of those elements is removed, then the clock starts ticking down and doesn't stop until feed, water, and rest are offered again.
So we're always aware of that as far as the time of day that we load, and you want to keep in mind that welfare. You can't unload bison just wherever. Like, you've got to have a pretty specialized facility to do that. The biggest risk or the biggest opportunity for injury or something to go sideways is during that loading and unloading process, for not only the animals themselves, but sometimes the handler. So you want to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row and everything's planned out so that you can have a successful trip. When we have an inspection, like we're going through like an export group, we get our veterinarian to come out, and we'll have have the animals, the group ready, and he can look through the air tags and make sure that that matches what's on the paperwork, and then also to have a good look at all the animals to make sure there's no lameness or mobility issues, that everything's fit to kind of walk onto the truck under its own power, and then also look for other disease issues.
Well, when we go through these animals, bison of course are a little bit different than beef cattle. You can run cows through the chute numerous times and you're not worrying about stress. Major things that we're looking for is lameness is a big thing. If they seem like they're limping, if there's swollen joints, problems with feet, that sort of thing, then that's an example of something that we would pull or have a high risk on the load, just because the ability for them to stand on the trailer for 36 hours between rests can probably be fairly detrimental or hard on the animal. Other things we worry about are disease issues, so we look for eye discharge, nasal discharge. If there's anything like that that's off-putting, we'll pull them or examine them to make sure that there isn't any major issues like pink eye, etc., that sort of thing. If they're breathing heavy or having a hard time with their breathing, we worry about pneumonia or heart disease and those sort of things, so we want to inspect those animals and make sure, or pull them off the load because they are high risk. And then finally, if there's any discharge and stuff out the back end, of course, there's another indication that there may be other problems. When we're driving through the animals, of course, cattle and beef and bison are a little bit different. When we're going through the herd, one of the first things we'll do is if there's a group of them, we'll identify the ones that are isolated and off by themselves. And we'll make sure we spend a little bit more time to make sure that they're up and moving, because usually bison will isolate themselves if they're sick or poor doing or having issues. Other things we'll do is anything that's laying down, we'll make sure all the animals are up or moving freely, and everything looks good.
We have a record of movement book that when animals leave their herd of origin, that book is to be filled out and filed with the registrar of either it's the Canadian Cattle Identification Agency, and that's all really handy to use. They have a really good traceability app where you can enter in those RFID numbers and put in your premise ID numbers, so you can keep track of where these animals go from calves to yearlings to the feedlot to market. And then also as far as manifests, we have our CFIA health certificate where we can keep track of all the animals that are on the load.
Remember, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency regulates livestock transportation through the Health of Animals regulations. Manifests and export certificates are just two documents that may be required depending on the situation. Additional requirements can be found by visiting these links.